and welcome back to Claire's Clues. On today's video, I want to talk about the book Crucial Conversations by Joseph Grenny, Switzler and Ron McMillan. So you might be asking yourself, what is a crucial conversation? And to give a brief overview for you, I would say it's a confrontation you need to handle with care. So it generally entails two people where three things happen. One, stakes are high. Two, opinions vary. And three, emotions run strong. So to avoid emotional, explosions or people blowing up or getting frustrated or angry in the moment, the best way we can avoid this is by dialogue. So keep the dialogue going, keep the conversation rolling. So the best way to do this is to start with a story. And what we would do is say, replay the situation as you saw it by using when I and invite conversation. So for example, you would say, when this happened, I felt this. And in return, I jumped to this conclusion. And then you go on to say, I invite you to tell your side of the story because I'd love to hear it. And you always encourage them because they never want to feel as if they're not being heard. You never want to make someone feel as if their opinion or their side of the story is not, right or correct or not good enough. So by doing this, by inviting them to tell their story, they feel like they can open up. They feel as if they're actually wanting to be heard. Because remember, we need to seek first to understand, then to be understood. So make sure that you're explaining your side, but enabling them to tell theirs. Because remember, not everyone is going to have the same point of view. So moving on, what you would do is tell them that your side of the story, and then invite them to tell theirs. And make sure that you're assertive and honest when doing this. All right, and then moving on, what you would do is convince them you're not their enemy. So make sure that they know that you're not against them. They're not, opponents in a game. You're not going up against each other to battle or win a conversation. You're there to have a mutual understanding. You're there to find mutual ground and get a result for both sides. Have a win-win. All right, and then go on to say that find your common goal, value, and purpose. Make sure that you both have some common goal, or some common ground. And then value and purpose as well, because this will all help with the conversation that you're having. This will help the other person understand that you have mutual understanding, that you have mutual values, and the purpose of this conversation is because you both want a positive result, not because you're there to reprimand them or tell them that what they did was wrong or you disagree with them in some way, but instead to tell them or explain to them that you want to understand, that you wish to understand their point of view and you want to know where things went wrong so that you can start fixing them, so that you can start working on a better relationship with that person and moving forward. So understand that they also need to know that you want to work together and that you are on the same team. So like I said, you're not there to be opponents in a game. You're not there to battle each other or win a conversation because it's a win-win situation. It's not a win-lose or lose-lose. You shouldn't be walking away from the table thinking, well, that was, useless. That didn't achieve anything. Because what you'll find is that people that walk away from conversations feeling less than or feel as if they haven't achieved anything won't really want to come back to the table to do it again because you've already set the standard of the fact that they're not going to get understanding out of the conversation. They're not going to feel as if they've been understood. All right, so like I said, seek first to understand, then to be understood, and always think win-win in this situation. But no matter what, keep that dialogue going. Keep asking them questions, all right? Because that way they feel as if you actually do want to be involved. You do care about how they think and feel. You do want to resolve the situation. So going on, if they are still silent, prime their point of view. If they don't want to speak, which a lot of people won't, especially in the moment if they're quite angry or upset with what's happened, or they think that your point of view is wrong, a lot of people retreat. A lot of people don't want to sit on the other side of the table and be dictated to or told like, it was like this is what you did wrong. That's the wrong way to handle things. So like I said, it needs to be handled with care because both sides are going to be running very high on emotion. So take it step by step and always keep that dialogue going with understanding. So like I said, one person, if they are still silent, prime their point of view. Make sure that you're asking questions like, are you thinking of X, Y, or Z? Whatever it might be. And make sure you have a good faith guess. Make sure you're not saying like, oh, you just think this of me. No, Don't do that, because all you're doing is poking the bear. You're provoking someone to respond in such a manner that it will provoke emotions such as anger, frustration, and almost resentment. So to avoid that, and to avoid having to have multiple conversations down the track, make sure you're taking the path of understanding, or you're taking a good faith guess. So it might be something along the lines of like, hey, are you thinking about this when this happened, or I did this, or what's your point of view on when I said this? Like, do you think I actually did something wrong, or was it something that you think you did wrong? And you don't always have to say, is it something wrong? You could say something along the lines of, did you disagree with when I said this? Or did you disagree with when I did this? Whatever it might be, understand that you are part of the problem as well. Because people, honestly, at the end of the day, you can't have a problem by yourself. You can't self-create problems out of nothing. Something has to have happened. And generally it takes two people or more for a situation like that to occur. So understand that at the end of the day, you will be part of the problem. You will be part of whatever it is, the causation of why something happened. But in understanding that, you can also know that you will be part of the solution. So moving on, he also says that there's two beliefs. One is the other person is reasonable, rational and decent. And the second one is that you're largely part of the problem. So like I just said, understand that even though you are part of the problem, you can also be part of the solution. But the thing is we can't solve problems with the same thinking we had to create them. If you go into this and you think, well, I'm still mad about the way they spoke to me, or I'm upset about this, or I didn't get the result that I was looking for. If you go into that conversation with the same attitude that you had when this all began, you'll find that you won't actually be coming to a win-win conclusion. Instead, you'll be coming to a lose-lose or a win-lose, and in which case one party will always step away feeling less than or disappointed in the outcome. So to avoid that, like I said, keep the conversation going, make sure that you have common ground, values and understanding of each other and a purpose that you want to achieve. Make sure that you both leave that table or that conversation very happy, or happier than what it was when you first entered. Make sure that both parties are understood and that you understand the other side. So like I said, one, the other person is reasonable, rational and decent. And two is that you are largely part of the problem. These two things, these two beliefs will help when you are going through the motions of trying to have a crucial conversation. And also use when I conclusions. So when I do this next time, do you want me to respond like this, or should I do this instead? So these are great examples. So I'll quickly summarize all this again for you guys. At the very beginning, a crucial conversation is a confrontation you need to be had carefully. So it usually entails two people where one, stakes are high, two, opinions vary, and three, emotions run very strong. And like I said, the best way to avoid this, of avoiding emotional explosions and being, someone being upset or angry, the best way to avoid that is to keep the dialogue going. Now, moving on, he also says, start with a story. Make sure that there's always a story in mind when you're going into this, of the situation at hand and your belief of it, your side. And say things like, when this happened, I felt like this, and then I, jumped to this conclusion. So you're explaining your side, and you're also having understanding when explaining it and saying, look, I am taking responsibility of this part, and I am responsible for when this happened and how I responded. Because we're only responsible for how we act and react. We cannot control other people, but we can control situations and conversations such as this. So moving on, you need to invite them to tell their side of the story. You need to explain to them that you're on their side and that you are team members, that you are there together. You're not there to be enemies or opponents. You're not there to walk away with one winning, one losing. You're there to have mutual understanding and to work things out together so you can both have a win-win situation. All right, and also he says, convince them that you're not their enemy and find your common goal, value and purpose. Make sure that you all have common ground on some degree, that you all agree on something and that you all understand that the values at hand and the purpose of what you're doing is mutual. And last on that one is that you want to work together, that you are on the same team. Don't make them feel as if they're, singled out or ostracized in any way, because they're not. You do want them to come to a conclusion with you. You do want a resolution for both sides. Now moving on, like I said, if they're still silent, prime them with a point of view. So maybe they're thinking, maybe they're not saying anything, maybe they're just sitting there, and you think to yourself, well, what can I do? Here's what you do. You say, are you thinking this? Or when I did this, is that what you're thinking of? Or maybe it's a case of, you know, the way I reacted, is that what you're thinking of? Ask them what's going on in their mind, because you will get an answer eventually. And then make sure you're making good faith guesses. Make sure you're not saying things that are derogative or mean or is going to put someone down. Make sure that you're on a mutual level with someone when you're speaking to them. Now, moving on, like I said, there's two beliefs. The beliefs being, number one, is that the other person is reasonable, rational, and decent. And number two is that you are largely part of this problem as well. But like I said before, if you are part of the problem, you can also be part of the solution. But the only difference is that you can't go into this with the same attitude you had when the problem was created. You must change that attitude, because we can't solve problems with the same attitude that we used to create them. Now, like I said, guys, the last bit on this one is that use when and I conversations. So, like I said, when I did this, is that what you're talking about? Or I believe that I'm responsible for this part of the conversation where it went wrong. Make sure you let the other person know that they are not just solely responsible for what happened, but you did play a part in this as well. And that you'll come to find that you will find common ground and understanding with each other, this way leading to a resolution and conclusion where both parties do win. Alright guys, that's all from me for now. We'll be making a lot more of these videos for this training series. So until next time, leave a comment below on what you like the most, and I look forward to seeing you next time in Claire's Clues.